This is No Thanks, and I'm going to teach you how to play it. Now, this is a very easy game to learn. It's very simple, but out of that simplicity comes some decisions that are really fun and interesting. The goal of the game is to have the fewest number of points at the end. The lowest score wins. Inside the box, you've got this deck of cards numbered 3 through 35, and if you ever take a card, you get that many points. So if you take this 15, you get 15 points. It's not terrible, but if you take the 35, that's the worst card in the deck, you're going to get 35 points. So to help you with that, everyone starts the game with a handful of these tokens that you can use to avoid taking cards. But eventually you're going to run out of tokens, so you're going to have to take something. The question is, which cards do you avoid, which cards do you take, and when do you take them? To set up the game, simply shuffle the deck of cards and remove 9 random cards without looking at them. This is important. I'll explain why later. Now, I'm setting up for a 3-player game, so the rulebook tells me to give each player 11 pass tokens. There might be a different number if you're playing with more people, so I always just check the rulebook. Now, keep these tokens secret from other players, okay? You can put them in your hand, but I personally like to use a dish, so I can simply use one hand to cover the top. Then randomly pick a start player and flip the top card of the deck over, and that's the setup. On my turn, this card is being offered to me, and I have 2 options. I can either take it and put it here next to me, or I can pass and place a token on it. Now, do I want this card? No, you never want any cards because this is worth 10 points and points are bad, right? So I'm going to pass on this. And then we go clockwise around the table to the next player and they get the same choice. Player 2 doesn't want it either, so they're going to pass. Player 3's turn and they don't want it either. They will pass. Now it's back to me again and I have the same choice, but it's a little different this time because if I were to take this card, I also get to collect the tokens on it. And these are going to help me avoid probably some worse cards in the future, right? This goes up to 35 in the deck. So I'm thinking I'm going to take these tokens and take the 10. Now, whoever took the last card in the middle is going to take another turn immediately. So I'm going to take the next turn. I'm going to flip this next card over and take another turn. All right, well, that's even worse than before, so I am definitely going to pass. Player 2 is going to pass. Player 3 will pass. And I think I'll pass again. Player 2 will pass again. Now at this point, I should tell you, if you ever run out of tokens completely, then you have to take the card in the middle. You have no choice. So it's best to try to avoid getting to that point. You want to try to keep your token supply up to a moderate level. So player 3, I think at this point, thinking this is pretty tempting to be able to collect 5 tokens. So they are going to take the 16 and place this in front of them. And since player 3 took the card in the middle, player 3 is going to take the next turn with the next card. The game continues like this until all of the cards have been taken from the deck, and then we count up our scores, and this is where the game gets really interesting. These are all of the cards that I collected. Now, I have a sequence of cards in consecutive order here. I have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So what's great is that I get to take all of these cards and line them up, and together, this entire stack is only worth the lowest card in the sequence. So all of these cards are only worth 7 points. That's really good. Likewise, these 2 cards are consecutive, so I get to count these as a sequence, and together the 2 cards are only worth 29. Sadly, I was not able to find the 14 in this game. Otherwise, I would have been able to link these up. So these are just worth their face value separately. Now, I also had the 11, remember? So had I gotten the 12, actually player 2 took the 12 way up here. So I could have linked this in my large sequence. But the 14, actually, nobody took the 14. Do you remember at the beginning in the setup, we took out 9 random cards from the game? So you're never actually quite sure which cards you may want are just not going to be there. So that was one of those cases where I was looking for the 14 and it just never showed up. So the one last rule I haven't shown you yet is that your tokens that you have left over count as negative points, which is great. That means it's going to bring my score down even further. So I've got 3 left over here, so that'll bring my score down a little bit. So my total score is 7 plus 29 plus 13 plus 15 minus 3. That's 61 points. And the player with the lowest score is the winner. Now that's all the rules in the game. It's simple, but there are some really interesting situations that can come up. So let me just give you one more example. Let's say that I have the 34 and the 33 in front of me, and I've just flipped over the 32. All right, most new players that I've taught this game to have just taken the 32 immediately because it helps them build a better sequence. But there's a better strategy here. Okay, what if I just pass on it one time? Okay, well, I know player 2 isn't going to want it because that's a lot of points to swallow. Player 3 doesn't want it either. So now if I take it, I'm already better off because I've gotten 3 more negative points by taking more tokens. So what if I pass on it again? Right? If they still don't want it, now it's even better. So how many times can I send it around to get even more tokens before I take it? This is just interesting because there's a lot of things to consider here. Like, I still need to get a general sense for how many tokens those players have left. I don't know. Remember, these are all hidden, so I have to kind of gauge that. Maybe a player is going to be forced to take it before I get to it. Maybe a player just wants to take it out of spite just to prevent me from having it. That's always a possibility. So these kinds of situations are where the game really shines. You've been watching The Game Locker. That's one word, The Game Locker. Check out these other videos on the screen if you'd like to learn how to play some other great games. And if you have any questions about the rules for this game, or if I made any mistakes, please post a comment down below and I'd be happy to respond as soon as I can. Godspeed.